Hello guys, my name is X-Ray, and in today's video we're going to be attempting to survive 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. You might have seen this challenge from someone known as TheNotable. Well, he created this idea. Thanks, Luke. Anyways, as always, we have 3 goals. The first one is to defeat the Ender Dragon, then to eliminate the Wither, and finally to get full netherite tools and armor. Before we start the video, I want to say though that this video took over 50 hours to edit and record, and I would really appreciate if you guys dropped a like and maybe sub to the channel. And if you want to watch a 200-day video, don't worry and just write it down in the comments and I'll happily do it. Anyways, enough talking from me, and let the adventure begin. Day 1, I spawned on an island. The first thing I naturally did was head over to the nearby tree. I don't know why I picked this one, it wasn't that close. But anyways, I started punching the tree with my fists, as that's the only way to get wood at the start of the game. Once I had enough, I made myself a crafting table, and with that some basic wooden tools, such as a wooden pickaxe and a wooden axe. Thanks to the wooden axe, I can now break and chop down wood much quicker. And guess what? That's exactly what I did. I headed over and chopped some more. While I was doing this, I thought to myself, since there's no animals around, I'm going to need a reliable food source. So I would look for fish, and that's what I did. I headed into the ocean and I started chopping down some fish. Yes, chopping down, because I am using an axe. Anyways, I went exploring for a bit and I found this ruined portal. Here, I tried to mine the golden block with a wooden pickaxe, not knowing that I couldn't do it. Anyways, I then looted the chest, and inside I found some iron nuggets and golden carrots. They could be useful in the near future. Once I was done with that, I thought to myself, I'm going to need a base if I want to survive in hardcore Minecraft, such as a house or something. Yeah, I'm just going to dig myself a hole in the ground. Anyways, I mined a little bit, and then once I had enough space, I put myself a crafting table on the floor and then made myself a furnace. I would need this to smelt down the fish. But since I didn't have enough, I would go down into the ocean again. And this time my aim was even worse. I basically got 3 fish at the end of it, but it was worth it. Anyways, I wanted to look for iron, and just after 4 blocks, I found my first iron ore vein. And it was actually a pretty big one. It contained at least 6 pieces, and I was really pleased about this as I could finally make myself the iron pickaxe and maybe a shield. Once I had enough, I smelted it and made myself my iron pickaxe. I got myself the new achievement. Isn't it an iron pick? I then went outside and I saw that it was becoming night. So I decided to enjoy a nice sunset outside for a few seconds, as I would remember this. Once I was done, I headed back into my mine, as it would be better if I stayed down there all night and mined cobblestone, iron, and all that good stuff, as it would protect me from all the monsters outside, as they are really dangerous without any protection or armor. It was now day 2, and I had mined all night. I went outside and it was raining, so I decided to go back inside and make myself an iron axe, as I thought I would chop down wood for the whole day. And guess what? That's exactly what I did, and this is what's left of them. I then lit up my island, as I didn't want any mobs spawning here, and dumped all the stuff I had into my chest. I then went back to mining to look for more iron, and guess what? I found my first diamond ore. And it was actually a pretty big vein. It was about 8 diamonds, and I was really happy about that, as I could make myself a diamond pickaxe that of course I wouldn't use immediately, but it would be useful in the near future. So I put the diamonds back into my chest, just like this, and stored them there. It was now day 3, and I was really happy. Diamonds, let's go. But I looked around and I couldn't really see anything, so since I had some eggs, I tried to spawn a chicken, and guess what? It did. I didn't really need it, so I kind of like closed them up in a hole. Yeah, don't tell anybody. Anyways, I made myself the diamond pickaxe that I promised myself and put it back into the chest. I then made myself a boat and looked around me to see if there was anything I could need. I went back down, headed into the boat, and headed out to look for land and animals. I found some pigs on the way that I killed, and finally I found the sheep that I would need to make myself a bed. I then put down a crafting table and made myself some shears, and with these I would shear the sheep to get the wool I would need for the bed. I then tried to put the sheep into the boat, but it was actually suffocating, so I had to be careful with that. I then made myself the bed and went back down to sleep. It was now day 4, and I took the sheep back to my house. I made a small fence and put it there. I then went back and got another sheep and put it there too. By the time I was finished, it was nighttime, so I closed off the pen and went to bed. It was now day 5, and I started off the day by making myself a wooden hoe. I made some farmland and then planted my first seeds to make a small wheat farm. I then planted down the sugarcane and headed back into my boat. I wanted to look for some cows, so I went back to the same place I was before, and just after a little bit of exploring, I found my first cows. I tried to put them in a boat, and I would need 2 so that I could breed them. And even though this took a while, I managed. Eventually, while I was going back, I noticed that this place was beautiful and that might actually be a very good place to live in. So I went around and looked at it for a while, and I made my decision. I'm gonna live here. So I made myself a double chest so that I could deposit all my loot there in order to have free space so that when I went back home, I could take everything that I had and put it in my inventory. I then made myself a boat and went back home. By the time I got there, the sun was already starting to set. So I took all the sugarcane that I had already planted and went back down into my house. I knew that this was going to be the last time that I was going to sleep or live here, so I was going to make it count. I then went back to bed, and finally, the day was up. It was now day 6, and I started by taking all the loot that I had in my chest into my inventory. I didn't take everything, but only the essentials, as I didn't have enough space. I then went into my boat and left. But on the way, I saw that my sheep had found a new friend, the creeper. I'm sure they're going to have fun. Anyways, I kept on rowing, and eventually I got there. It had been a long journey, but I had made it. I started off by making a small fence for my cows that I'd first gotten. But just like villagers, they didn't want to collaborate. And I kind of lost my mind, so I made a small crop farm again. Here I planted the seeds that I had taken out from before, and by the time I was done, it was nighttime. On day 7, I did the same thing and I planted more seeds and started terraforming a little so that I could build my house. This was essential as the area wasn't really flat and I was going to need to terraform it if I wanted to. I found a small ravine there and I decided to explore it, so I made myself a little bit of iron armor and a shield and I went down there just in case there was any bad mobs that would kill me. And as I expected, there was a skeleton, but I handled it with no problem. I immediately swooped in with my sword and used the shield for the first time, getting the achievements. Anyways, there wasn't much, so I made myself a few furnaces, as this would be my temporary house, and then smelted my beef. Once I was done with that, I smelted some more, and I headed back into the ravine as I wanted to light it up, as I didn't want any more mobs spawning down here. And I didn't really want to fill it up as it was still too big and I didn't have enough materials. When I went back up, it was already nighttime, so I headed into my bed. For the next days, it was time to build my house. So I got the cows, put them in the pen, and started the build for my house. I was pretty proud of what I had built, so on day 16 I took a break, and I just farmed all day. I took all the wheat from my small little farm, and then since I had planted a lot of sugarcane during the days that I had built my house, I took all that had grown, and it was actually a lot, and I would need this for the paper to make books in the near future. On day 17, I went down in the mines looking for diamonds, and I spent the whole day there, but unfortunately, I didn't find any. On day 18, I killed an enderman and then went back into the mines, and I spent all of day 18 and 19 there. I didn't find any diamonds though, so it was pretty boring, and I kind of regret it because I didn't even find that much iron. Anyways, on day 20, I went out and breeded my cows. They were actually a lot now. I then planted some more crops in my small farm, and on day 21, I completed my armor by making an iron chestplate and an iron helmet. I was pretty happy. On the same day, I killed some cows. On day 22, I went out to look for a village. I needed the villagers for an essential project. And not far out, I found it. I was pretty happy and I started by taking all their belongings. I then went to sleep. On day 23, I kidnapped a villager and brought him to my base. I then took another one as these two would breed and make me infinite villagers. But to do that, I would need a villager breeder. So that's exactly what I constructed. I had to watch a tutorial to do this as I'm not really good with this kind of stuff, but don't worry, I'll link it down in the description so you guys can copy it in your own base if you want. And by day 25, I was finished. Yes, I didn't have enough carrots, but it was good for now. I then took one of the villagers, and I was pretty happy about the system so that they couldn't escape, and then brought him down. He became a farmer immediately, so I gave him some wheat to start the process. I don't think he actually needed it, but it was fine at the time. I then continued work. On day 26, I got another villager as I needed this to complete the farm, and after a lot of pain, as you know, villagers are really hard to move, I managed to get him into his hole with his partner. I then closed off the place, and I waited for them to breed. But even though I gave them a full stack, nothing worked. And even though I thought I had wasted my time, I decided to move on and go back into the mines to get some obsidian. I would need this to make myself an enchanting table, so to get some armor. Even though I knew I wasn't really going to use it as I had villagers, but an enchanting table is something that every base needs. So once I had all the obsidian I needed, I headed out and got myself some diamonds that I had left in the chest outside. I then made myself the first enchanting table on my bed. By the time I was finished, it was already nighttime, so I went to sleep. On day 28, I bred more of my cows, and they were actually becoming a lot. I then looked around to where I wanted to build my enchanting room, and I put down the enchanting table. Here I put down the bookshelves. Thanks to the sugarcane, I had enough paper to make them, and then got some materials to build the whole room. I didn't really know what I was going for, but I knew I was going to find it on the way, and eventually this is what I came up with. Let me know in the comments if you like it. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not a builder, but I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. I think it's pretty good. Anyways, on day 29, I looked if there was any enchantments that were good, and I actually enchanted my pickaxe. It wasn't the best of enchantments, but it was gonna do. I then breeded more of my cows, as this was always soothing, and then killed some. Yeah, a little bit of variety. I then headed down into the mines, and actually was pretty fast with this new pickaxe. I then found this creeper, and I don't know what happens to me when I meditate. I thought this would be cool to show you, but I guess this is one of the first encounters with a creeper, and yeah, I guess I killed it with no problems. On day 30, I headed back up to look if my villager breeder had worked. And guess what? I could hear the noise of a baby villager, and there he was. So I went back to my house, made myself a lectern, and came back. I was looking for good trades, such as a mending book, or something like that. And I gotta say, villagers are pretty stubborn. They don't really give you what you want, and sometimes you gotta try and keep trying with them for a lot of time. But eventually you get some good books, such as this one that was a Looting 3 book, that I knew I was going to need now, but I could use it later, for example, for Wither Skeletons. I then kept on trading with these villagers, and eventually even got myself an Efficiency 5 book. This was huge, as I could put this on my axe and on my pickaxe. This would help me so much. And then I went on looking for a mending book. Again, it took a while, but eventually I got it. A mending book. Now my armor wouldn't go to waste anymore. I then enchanted my pickaxe and called it the Pix. It's not a really creative name, but I had nothing else to call it, so I'm going to stick with that. On day 31, I went out to chop some wood. I needed this for my new project of building a villager trading hall. For those of you guys that don't know what it is, it basically allows me to get discounted trades, and I really need those. I started by terraforming a little bit around my villager breeder, as I thought it would be good to build it next to it so that it would be easier to transport the villagers to the trading hall. Anyways, I started building it, and I kind of made my own twist on it, as I had seen this in other YouTube videos, and I kind of used my own design. Even though it's pretty simple, I didn't have to put a lot of redstone, literally 2 pieces per each. By the time I was almost done, it was nighttime, so I went to sleep and had a night rest. On day 32, I added the finishing touches to the villager hole. I then put the villagers in their little holes where they will live for the rest of their lives. I then went back to the breeder and looked for an Unbreaking 3 book, and I eventually got it. I then got the villager and put him in his hole too. But I wanted something else, a Fortune 3 pickaxe, Efficiency 5. I already had the Efficiency 5, and after a little bit of searching, I got the Fortune 3. I added them both to my pickaxe, and by the time I was done, it was basically nighttime. I then went to bed, and it was now day 33. I celebrated by getting a few emeralds and then going down to the mines. I wanted to try my new pickaxe with Efficiency 5 and Fortune 3, and also a new technique of strip mining that I found on YouTube that is a little different from the classical one, but it's pretty much the same. And after just about 5 minutes, I found diamonds again for the second time. This time I mined them with a Fortune 3 pickaxe, and instead of just like 5 diamonds, I got much more. I was really happy, and I kept mining for the rest of the day so that I could get a full set of diamond armor. When I came back up, it was day 34, and I had enough diamonds for the set. I made them all in my crafting table, and by the time I was done, I had the Cover Me in Diamonds achievement. I was also really happy, as this was the first time I had ever got a full diamond armor. And I also decided to make myself a diamond sword and a diamond axe just to have a more complete diamond set, since I thought it was useless to make a diamond shovel or hoe. I then went to sleep. On day 35, I decided to test the mending pickaxe as it was starting to break, and it actually worked pretty effectively. I was happy because I didn't have to throw it in the trash just for mining a little too much. Once I was done, I decided to go to my farm, as I hadn't collected the wheat in a long time, and as you can see, there was a lot of it. But it was pretty satisfying to just destroy it one tap altogether. I then decided to give it to my cows to breed them a little more, and then on day 36 I went down to the mines again to strip mine a little more and see how many diamonds I could get again. It was pretty successful, and by the time I was done, I was really happy with what I had achieved. On day 37, I had come out with some obsidian too, so I decided that it was time for me to create my nether portal and finally go to the nether, since I had been delaying it for a long time now. I made the portal and then lit it up. I was kind of scared because I had done a lot since day 1 and I didn't really want to die. But I did get the achievement of we need to go deeper. I'd made a new pickaxe as I didn't want to accidentally drop the old one in lava, and since I was a long way up, it took me a while, but eventually I managed to get down. I looked around for another fortress but didn't find one, so I had to travel quite a bit. I didn't have any problem from the piglins as I was wearing a golden helmet, and this ensures that they won't attack you, because for some reason if you're wearing gold on you, they won't attack you. This was actually meta, because if I didn't have this, I would have probably died. I did find the nether fortress eventually, and I was really happy, but I was also kind of scared, as I didn't want to die, and I knew it was going to be a real risk for me going down there, especially since I didn't have enchanted armor. But nonetheless, I dug down and I got there, and I got the new achievement of a terrible fortress. This was the closest scene I had to dying in the fortress, but fortunately, I knew how to play Fortnite, so I knew how to box myself up like a fish. Anyways, once I had everything I needed, I headed back out into the portal, and I could finally start brewing myself some weakness potions that I could throw to the villagers in order to make them have discounted trades. I quickly brewed them and made them splash potions of weakness, and once I had everything I needed, I waited until night to get a zombie. I needed a zombie so that I could bring him into the villager trading hall so that he would infect the villagers. The way this works is that he infects them, then you cure them, and they give you discounted trades. As you can see now, by flicking the lever, you're bringing the villagers next to the zombie, and he will infect them. I then went to bed to wait for them to get infected. The day after, I cured them by throwing them a weakness potion and then giving them a golden apple each. As it always takes some time, in the meantime I traded with my Fletchers by giving them sticks and getting emeralds in return. While I waited, they both got cured, and eventually, as you can see, they sold me their mending books at 1 emerald. And it was that easy. Yes, that easy. As soon as I had everything I needed, I crafted myself an anvil, put it down, and started enchanting all my armor and tools in order to give that sweet mending enchantment. This would help a lot as I wouldn't lose my armor anymore. Took some time, but eventually I had it. I was really happy about this, and as you can see, I went out and I decided to kill this creeper the best way possible. Yes, it was a terrible fight, but eventually I won. Yeah, well, anyways, on day 45, I started to make a fence gate all around my base, and I should have started this a long time ago, but I guess I did it now. Never too late. I also did some terraforming, and then I started adding some torches all around my base so they would be lit up and I could stay up all night as long as I wanted. From now on, I wouldn't have any problems with mobs in my base. I was really happy about this. I then added some finishing touches to the trading hall, and it was now day 46. I wanted to look for a good bow for the Ender Dragon fight, but since the enchanting table didn't give me much, I decided to calm myself down with a little bit of breeding of the cows. I then made myself a lectern and went down to the villager breeding area so that I could find myself a Power 5 book, and maybe even an Infinity book. I started a long search for the book, but instead I found a Feather Falling book, which I kept as it could be really useful for the Ender Dragon fight in case the Ender Dragon flung me up in the air. I kept searching, and even though it took a while, I eventually found the Infinity book, and I was already halfway of the journey there. All I needed now was a Power 5 book. And yes, again, it took a while because villagers are really annoying, but after a long search, he eventually gave me that Power 5 book. I was really happy. Once I had them all, I decided to transfer them into my villager trading hall, and as you can see, here it is. I then went back home and added the Power 5 and Infinity to my bow. I was really happy. This was a really powerful bow, and yeah, I kept on going with my villager hall. I then transferred more of the villagers back into the hole, and as you can see, it still takes some time, but eventually you can do it. I also tried to kill the cows, but I guess, I don't know, my aim is that bad. So I waited until night, and I started killing some mobs from outside the base, since they couldn't spawn in my base, just to have some practice. And while doing so, some phantoms spawned, and this was really useful as I could finally make myself some slow falling potions. These are really helpful in the dragon fight. Oh, and yeah guys, I decided to keep this clip as I wanted to show you how bad I am with the bow and arrow. On day 53, I started the long search for a Protection 4 book. I would need this for the dragon fight. This time it took much longer than all the other books, I don't know why, but eventually I managed to get it. And after a long fight with the villager, I managed to infect him, cure him, and get discounted trades. Yeah. 20 emeralds? Are you crazy? I don't have any more apples. Ah, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do more stick trading.
2,000 years later.
By the time I was done, it was day 57. It had taken me 4 days of stick trading. I had traded about 3,000 sticks just to get about 100 emeralds. Well, it was worth it though, because as you can see, my armor was basically completed except for Thorns 3 that I wasn't going to get anyways because it wasn't going to do anything with the dragon. On that same day, I decided to head to the Nether to get some Ender Pearls. It was pretty easy since I had a Looting 3 sword, and the Endermen are helpless if you stay under a 2-block high roof. Anyways, once I was done, I headed to the Nether Fortress, as I wanted to explore it a little more, as the last time that I'd gone here, I'd only gone for the blaze rods, and I've quickly left. Instead, this time, I kind of wanted to explore and see maybe if there were some chests with some good loot. When I got there, I started cleaning up the corridors, such as these lava lakes that could do a lot of damage if you fell into them. Potentially, you could also die. I also started killing some random blazes and wither skeletons, just to see if they could drop anything I needed. I also found some saddles in the chests, and these would actually be really useful in the future. And when I was done, I collected some quartz in order to heal my mending pickaxe. When I was ready, I went back, and I had a good amount of loot, as you can see, and a lot of quartz and stuff I really didn't need, but it was useful to have. When I got back, it was nighttime, but I didn't have any time to lose, so I quickly went back to my house and started brewing some potions for the Ender Dragon fight. The most important ones, I think, are the slow falling potions, so I started making some of those, and I also added them to make them longer. In the meantime, I also made my first Ender Eyes that I would need to find the Ender Dragon and the End Fortress. Once I had that, I was basically ready. I had everything I needed. As you can see, the potions were ready too. At dawn, I headed out to a small mountain in my base and looked for phantoms, and I guess it's just a holy place. They just come to you just to get killed. And that's exactly what I did, and I turned them into some more slow falling potions. I really love these, and they're really helpful when you're fighting the Ender Dragon. Once I had enough, I decided that I wanted a horse, so I went into my chest, got the saddle, and a diamond armor. I went out and looked for horses. I found many, but for some reason I didn't know how they worked, so I tried taming them, but nothing worked. I tried for a lot, I spent a lot of time with them. I even went back and thought I could eat carrots, so that's what I did. I went back home, got some carrots. I thought they would like them, but even with these, they just did not want them. I tried and I tried and I failed every time. Yeah, it would have been much easier, but I didn't know at the time how to tame them. I even punched the poor horse by accident. I even gave them wheat, but they just ate it all up. They didn't want it. But eventually, after many tries, I understood where I had gone wrong and I managed to tame them. I added the armor and I added the saddle, and finally I had a horse. He wasn't that fast, but he was fast enough for me. I didn't really care, as long as I had a companion. I started riding him a little bit and then went back home to get more preparations made some more potions, and I also made some more food. I then decided that it was time for me to go to bed, as this might be the last time that I sleep in my own house. On day 61, I collected the strength potions that I had made last night, and I had almost everything that I needed. I started putting everything in my inventory ready to go. I then decided to get some apples so that I can make some golden apples just in case the fight went south. I then started trading with my Fletchers in order to get enough emeralds to get an Unbreaking 3 book that I could add to my very powerful bow, since it was missing it. Once I had everything I needed, I added the Unbreaking book to my bow. And as you can see, this is really powerful now. I then crafted some more golden apples, just in case, and then just got all the sugarcane since I hadn't gotten in a lot of time. Later I crafted some shears in order to make a jack-o'-lantern that would be useful against Endermen. I then went out and repaired some of my tools, killing some mobs outside. It was now evident that the fight was going to be tomorrow, so I decided to sleep one more time, as this again might be the last night that I sleep here. I looked around my base and said to myself, well, it was nice. If this is the last time, well, it was a nice life in this world. Anyways, it was now day 63. I was sure I had everything I needed and I was ready for the Ender Dragon fight. I reorganized my inventory in base of what I would need, just in case I was in a bad situation and I would need to get something. It was really helpful, and I will not regret this in the future. Anyways, with everything set, I decided that it was time. So I got my horse and was ready to throw my first Ender Eye. As you can see, it pointed towards the ocean, and this might cause a little problem since I do have a horse. But no worries, I crafted myself a boat and then got myself a leash so that I could carry my horse with it. I then attached him to it and went in the boat. Maybe it wasn't the most comfortable thing for him, but I was sure that the journey wasn't just going to be on water. And by the time that we got to land, the sun was starting to set. But I was not scared. I had my horse, and so we kept on riding through the night. We did for a long while, going through mountains and plains. But I wanted to show you guys the journey, as even though it was long, it will all be worth eventually. I then threw my second eye, ready to go in the direction, and I was going in the right one. We were approaching a forest, but I was not scared. I was sure me and my horse would be able to. And while in it, I found a dog. And since the dog had managed to kill a skeleton, I decided to try and use those bones to try and tame him. And guess what? Just at the first try, I managed to tame him. My new puppy. Anyway, we kept on riding through many forests and plains. It was a long journey, but we were going the right way, and altogether we kept going. As you can see, we crossed many biomes, even ice ones, but eventually had to go back. So that meant that we were close. We had already passed the fortress. I now started to throw the eyes more frequently, as I needed to know the exact location of the fortress, even though I knew that it was beneath us. Eventually, I got to a point where I knew it was right there. I collected the eye and decided that I would throw it one last time just to see exactly if I was in the right position. And yes, I was. So I trapped my horse between some trees, as I would get him some other time, and then started digging down to the fortress. I was kind of scared, but eventually I got there. Not far from where I landed, I found the portal room. It was actually pretty close. but I was terrified. Nonetheless, I decided to break the spawner and put all the ender eyes in. I wanted to see the portal activate. And that's exactly what I did. It activated in front of my eyes. I then drank the potions and I was ready. Scared but ready. I looked around one last time and then decided that it was time for me to jump into the portal. I went in and I was terrified. But I knew I had to keep going. So I started digging up as I was inside the end island. I was really scared at this point, but there was nothing I could do. Just keep going forward. And eventually, after a few blocks, I saw the end. I was here. I looked down as I was really scared of Enderman. I put the pumpkin on my head, but I saw that it wasn't really helping, so I switched to third-person view. I then hired some help making an iron golem just to deal with the Enderman. It was now time to bring our attention to the Ender Dragon, and naturally the first thing to do is to break the End Crystals, as that's the only way that the Ender Dragon can regenerate health. I started breaking all the towers, and for some reason my aim was actually pretty on point, and with no time I had broken 3 of them. But I got to a point where some of them were too far away or too high up, so the only possible way to destroy them was to pillar up to them. So that's exactly what I did. I got up there and the dragon shot at me, but fortunately he didn't hit me. I then got up, destroyed that one, and kept on destroying more of them. It was now pretty easy as I had high ground. I was now almost ready to start shooting the dragon. I just had a few left, but again they were too far away. So I jumped down thanks to my slow falling potion and started towering up again. I then broke more of them and I was almost done. I just had one more to break and the dragon would not be able to survive. So it was time just to focus on the dragon. So I started hitting my bow shots. They were actually pretty good. And I drank a strength potion since the first one had gone away. The dragon shot at me, but fortunately I managed to get out of the way. I also got some dragon's breath thanks to my strength potion that I had already used. And even when he started to perch, I decided that I would stay up here even though the sword would do more damage, as this would be more safe. All I had to do now was hit as many shots as I could and the dragon would be defeated.
2,000 years later.
It was almost done. All I had to do now was hit the dragon 2 more times and he would be dead. And thanks to 2 more accurate shots, it was over. I then decided to jump down and see the explosion in midair. It was beautiful. It was a surreal thing. I had actually defeated the Ender Dragon. And raining down came a lot, and I mean a lot of XP. And it took me a lot of time to get it all, but it was worth it because it gave me a lot of new levels. While I was doing this, the portal to the void opened, but I decided that this must be an adventure for the next time. Instead, I took the dragon egg and headed into the portal. Now that I had done the first goal, it was time to go for the second, to defeat the Wither. I immediately went to the Nether without losing any time, and then went to the Nether Fortress. Here, I started putting some precautions in order for the Wither skeletons not being able to hit me. And since I had a looting 3 sword, I was sure this was going to be quick. Instead, for some reason, it took a massive amount of time. I spent there hours, and for some reason, yes, I got the first goal almost immediately, but the second and the third took me a whole lot of time. And I don't know why, but the looting 3 didn't really do much. But eventually, I got all 3, and I was ready to go home. While doing so, I kept thinking of how I had defeated the Ender Dragon, and defeating the Wither would just be a walk through the park, without knowing that actually it would be much harder than Ender Dragon. But nonetheless, as soon as I got home, I dumped all the stuff that I had stacked into my inventory into the chests and sorted out my inventory. I started preparing everything I needed, including some strength potions and some golden apples, and then I found a place where I would dig down to bedrock level where I would spawn the Wither. I went down and I made myself a nice tunnel, but since I forgot about the buckets, I went and made them and got some milk. This would help me for the Wither fight. I then dug a tunnel underground, and this is the moment which I should have kept going, but I thought the tunnel was long enough, and that was going to be fine, and the Wither was going to be a piece of cake. Instead, I should have looked back again. As you can expect, I spawned the Wither, and I was ready to fight him. As always, the first half of the fight is pretty easy, as you have a bow and arrow, and he can't hurt you as long as you are far back behind. But as you can see, the Wither was destroying the tunnel pretty fast, and by the time I had to hit him with my sword, there was not much left of it. And to make things worse, the milk was running out. I was almost on the last bucket. So I kept on hitting the wither, but it was dealing too much damage to me, and I was starting to panic. I arrived at a point where I had no more tunnel left and just a stairway. So I decided to dig down and try to hit him a little easier. And this is the worst decision I ever made. I decided to jump into a hole with the wither with no way out. I started panicking as I saw that the situation wasn't getting any better, and I was slowly dying. At this point, I was scared that it would all be over, that all of this would have been for nothing. I got to a point where I was cornered by the wither. I had nowhere to go. I panicked. But I managed to get out of there. I managed to dig a hole behind me and get out in safety. I managed to eat the beast and help me get my hearts back. I was not ready for this. I had not prepared enough. I didn't know that it would have been this hard, but it had been my first time. At this point I said, it has to go. I have to do it. It's this or nothing. So I prepared, got my health back, and jumped back in. I did everything I could. I was scared. I was really scared. But I knew that if I didn't do it now, I could never do it. I would never be able to do it. So again, I tried again. And this time, I was ready. I jumped in, and I started hitting him with everything I got. I got to the point where I had no more health. Basically none. But the wither was dead. I had managed to defeat. It was all over. I had gotten the wither star. But I was left with one heart. Thankfully though, I could eat. So I got my health back and got the wither star. All that for a simple star. Anyways, on the way back, I found some diamonds, and I mined them. But they didn't seem a lot, so I kept on mining, and I actually found a few more. It wasn't much, but at least it would help a little more. I then decided to go straight to bed to rest for a little bit. On day 75, I crafted the beacon. I put it on the floor, and I was kind of scared that if I didn't mine it with a silk touch pickaxe, it would break. But eventually I did, and I put it in the chest. It was now time for my next goal, to get ancient debris in order to make netherite armor and tools. I wanted to use a method that involved beds. To do that, I needed sheep though, and I didn't have any, so I got some. I also needed wooden planks, so I went and chopped down some trees, and then with some bone meal, managed to regrow them and get some more. Eventually, I had almost everything I needed, and I went straight back home to the crafting table and crafted as many beds as I could have. But they weren't enough, so I needed more. I also saw that I had enough emeralds to fill in a little bit of the beacon, so I put that down and I was ready to make it better. I then bred more of my sheep to have more of them so I could have more wool, and this would help me get more beds in less time. In the meantime, while I waited for the sheep to regrow their wool, I traded with the villagers in order to get more emerald blocks to add to the beacon. They still weren't enough, but I was getting close. I also kept on chopping down trees and regrowing them thanks to the bone meal that I had collected from the bone blocks in the nether. I needed these for the wooden planks for the bed. Anyways, I repeated this process of emerald trading, sheep shearing, and wood breaking. It was a bit boring, but it had to be done if I wanted to complete my third goal. After a bit of time, I managed to get enough beds to fill in a good amount of the double chest. I then decided to go down into the mines and get some obsidian. I would need this to create an ender chest so that I could carry all those beds, since my inventory couldn't do that. I went back upstairs and created 2 of them. I then placed them down and put all the beds inside them, ready to go to the nether. All I needed now was a golden helmet or a golden boots to help me not die from piglins. Once I got that, I went into the nether. This time, unlike the other 2 goals, I wasn't scared. I knew though that this was going to be a long and tedious process, so I found a good spot and I started mining down to Y level 15. There, I got my beds and started the bed technique. How this works is that you mine as far out as you can, then put a bed there, then dig 1 block behind that, go inside and then dig the block in front, and then crouch and try to sleep in the bed. What will happen is since you can't in the nether, it'll blow up and show if there's any ancient debris. And as you can see, I got pretty lucky on the first try and I got it. Anyways guys, since it took me a lot of time to get all the ancient debris that I needed, and I don't want to show you because it's going to get a little boring, but I know that you guys are going to say it's fake if I don't, I made a short time lapse of me breaking all the ancient debris that I needed, so that you guys don't say that it's fake. Anyways, here it is, and I hope you enjoy it. By day 89, I had everything that I needed to make myself full netherite armor and tools, so I went back home and smelted it all in my furnace. I also made a smithing table since I didn't have one of those and you need it in order to make netherite armor and tools, and then looked at my chest one last time before turning it all into netherite ingots. Finally, after a long wait, I opened my crafting table and combined the netherite scrap with golden ingots. And finally, I had made myself some netherite ingots. I then went to the smithing table where I could combine all my diamond armor with the netherite ingot. I took it all off, ready to combine it, and went in there. I then added it all and made it all into netherite. It felt so good to create it all like that, so good. I felt like I had done one of the biggest achievements in the game, and as you can see, I got the achievement of cover me in debris and then put it all on. It felt too good. I even made a netherite hoe. Yes, I could use a wooden one, but I did want that serious dedication achievement. Once I had everything on me, I looked at me in third person and I was too happy about what I have achieved in this world. I also had an ingot spare. I then went to my beacon and added haste 1 to it. It wasn't much, but it was going to help a little bit. On day 90, I decided that it was time to make my base look better. Yes, it was functional, but I had never really improved it in my 100 days. So I decided that I would get as many materials as I could and I would dedicate these last 10 days to make it look much better. Here is what I did. Anyways guys, this is my story on how I survived 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I did making it. As always, I'd really appreciate if you guys liked and subbed to the channel. And remember, if you want to see a part 2, just write it in the comments and I'll happily do it. Anyway, I hope you guys go on to have a good day and I will see you next time. See ya!